It was 14 years ago tomorrow that NASA put the Cassini spacecraft on the road.
System because there was a chance it could hit one of those moons, and the moons may harbor life.
When Cassini transmitted its final images back to Earth, the world seemed to fall silent. The spacecraft, nearing the end of its 20-year odyssey through the solar system, offered humanity one last breathtaking glimpse into the deep and mysterious realm of Saturn and its moons. These images weren't just the expected scientific closure of a mission. They were transcendent moments of visual poetry. The pictures captured just before Cassini plunged into Saturn's atmosphere were not ordinary space photography. They were raw, cinematic reminders of our fragile existence, of the scale and beauty that exists beyond Earth, untouched and unbothered by the chaos of human affairs. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. The final set of images spanned a haunting gallery. Cassini turned its camera towards Saturn's atmosphere, revealing towering cloud bands in surreal hues of gold, cream, and bronze. The planet's rings, sharp-edged and luminous, sliced through the darkness like ancient relics of a celestial puzzle. Cassini's eyes, mechanical yet elegant, surveyed the terrain of Enceladus, the icy moon with mysterious geysers bursting from its south pole. These geysers shimmered like ghostly fountains in the cold void, silhouetted against the curve of Saturn in the distance. There was no need for dramatic flair. Nature had already composed its masterpiece. But perhaps the most impactful image was one of the simplest, a wide-angle shot of Saturn's limb as the spacecraft drifted on its final descent. In that image, the curve of the planet became a boundary between light and dark, day and night, known and unknown. The rings, translucent yet precise, glowed against the starlit blackness. It was the kind of image that, once seen, cannot be forgotten. It stirred something deeply embedded in the human psyche. The eternal draw of exploration, the ache of beauty seen for the last time, the quiet inevitability of farewell. These images brought with them no noise, no explosion, no grand gesture. Instead, they delivered stillness. Scientists and engineers who had dedicated decades to Cassini's mission watched silently as the last frames were received. Around the world, people who might not have followed the mission closely felt an unexpected pull. The pictures circulated not just in scientific journals, but across social platforms, news outlets, and personal screens. In offices, homes, and classrooms, people stopped what they were doing. It wasn't just the science that caught their breath, it was the scope of the imagery, the sudden realization of how small Earth is in the scale of the cosmos, and how elegantly Cassini had revealed that truth without ever uttering a word. What made the moment so striking was how it straddled both the intimate and the immense. Cassini had traveled billions of kilometers, executed hundreds of orbits, and conducted intricate maneuvers through gravitational fields and icy gaps in the rings, all to give humanity a closer look at a planet they could never visit. It was a mission rooted in equations and telemetry, built on decades of engineering precision, yet it ended with an emotional resonance rarely seen in scientific ventures. That final transmission of images didn't merely represent data, it captured the emotional weight of an entire generation's worth of discovery. Looking at those final images, one could feel the scale of time itself. Saturn, with its unyielding presence, stood as a kind of cosmic witness, its rings older than human civilization, perhaps even older than life on Earth. Cassini's last photographs highlighted that temporal contrast. There was a fleeting machine built by brief beings on a small planet, sending pictures of an ancient world that will continue to spin long after we're gone. The images didn't say this out loud, but the message was clear. There is something greater, grander, and quieter out there, and for a brief moment, we were able to touch it. The spacecraft's lens lingered on Titan as well, Saturn's largest moon. The images captured its thick orange haze, so dense it looked like a planet itself. Beneath that veil, lakes of liquid methane stretched out like alien oceans. The eeriness of Titan's surface, the familiarity wrapped in strangeness, made it one of the most tantalizing destinations in the solar system. Cassini, which had deployed the Huygens probe to Titan earlier in its mission, gave one final bow to this enigmatic world. The pictures held the texture of mystery, like a dream half remembered, or a map to somewhere unreachable. Then there was the farewell shot of the rings, their curves sharp as blades, layered in icy symmetry. The detail in these images was staggering. Each ring segment, from the broad A ring to the almost invisible D ring, revealed its unique texture and behavior. Within them, Cassini had previously discovered ringlets, moonlets, and gaps caused by gravitational dances with small shepherd moons. But in the final images, these phenomena were not annotated with technical diagrams. They simply were. The rings stretched out across the void, unspooling like a record playing a song no one could hear anymore. It was beauty for beauty's sake, a phenomenon untouched by utility, presented in its final uninterrupted form. What stood out about these images was not just their content, but their clarity. After 2 decades, Cassini's cameras were still precise, still responsive, still able to interpret light from hundreds of millions of miles away. The fact that such fidelity could be achieved in the final hours of a deep space dive was, in itself, remarkable. There was no degradation, no fading lens, no blur to indicate wear. The machine died at its peak, capturing the cosmos with an eye as sharp as the day it launched. That final visual fidelity added to the weight of the moment. It wasn't just the end of a mission, it was the end of a perfectly executed act of human craftsmanship and ingenuity. Cassini's final plunge into Saturn was planned. NASA's team knew exactly when the spacecraft would be consumed by the gas giant's atmosphere. But the images it sent back didn't show that descent. Instead, they focused on what Cassini was leaving behind. A visual report of the wonders it had explored. In that way, the spacecraft didn't document its death. It documented its legacy. Those images weren't evidence of an end. They were declarations of purpose. Here is what I saw. Here is what I understood. Here is what I give to you before I go. The emotional tone surrounding those images wasn't manufactured. It arose naturally as viewers across the globe encountered them in personal moments, scrolling late at night, watching on public screens, seeing them projected in planetariums. Artists painted Saturn in new ways. Musicians composed soundtracks inspired by the final ring shots. Teachers used them as prompts for lessons not just in astronomy, but in poetry, in philosophy, in storytelling. Something about those final visuals struck a chord that transcended disciplines. They didn't ask for interpretation, they invited reverence. In these moments, Cassini became more than a probe. It became a proxy for all of humanity's longing to reach beyond itself. The spacecraft's final images served as a lens through which people glimpsed not just another world, but themselves. Small, determined, capable of creation that could reach into space and return with beauty. No artist could have drawn Saturn's surface like this. No painter could replicate the layered elegance of its rings. Cassini had created something not even its creators had fully imagined. A visual symphony of the outer solar system. There was also the subtle defiance in these images. The idea that even as global attention shifts rapidly, even as crises and noise dominate headlines, something beautiful and unbothered is still happening above us. Space isn't waiting for us. It simply is, majestic and mute. And in Cassini's final gaze, we saw that eternal indifference not as threatening but as liberating. There is a peace in knowing the universe continues vast and unaffected. We glimpse it not to conquer but to understand. That moment, when Cassini's last images streamed across deep space antennas to mission control, brought home the reality that exploration isn't always about discovery in the moment. It's about leaving behind something meaningful. The photographs served not just as a conclusion to a mission, but as a beginning for new questions, new hypotheses, new dreams. The silence after the final frame wasn't emptiness. It was space being made for what comes next. Cassini's images were never just pictures. They were compositions of light, of patience, of immense distance collapsed into something intimate. They captured more than planetary features. They captured longing, curiosity, and closure. The final views of Saturn, its rings glowing against the shadowed disk of the planet, made people pause and think, how can such a thing exist? And once that question settled in, another followed, what else is out there? No ceremony could have matched the quiet reverence those images inspired. They required no translation. They didn't need a press release to resonate. Anyone with eyes could look at them and feel something shift, a kind of internal recalibration, where everyday worries shrank beneath the weight of cosmic wonder. Cassini had traveled across the solar system not to shout, but to show. And when it showed us Saturn one last time, it didn't just stop the world, it reminded the world what it means to truly see. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, What are your thoughts on Cassini's final images? What do you think will unfold next? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.